You're listening to Big World Network.
Phineas Frakture and the Princess of Atlantis. Episode 12. Written by Joseph Gatch. Read by Michael Young. Phineas looked up at the man who was king. Shira's father had to be close to 6.5 feet tall, and his bearing was that of a ruler of men. His stare alone was enough to make one cringe. "Why are you holding my daughter?" the king boomed. His eyes looked at his nephew, and then back to Phineas. "And what did you do to Milos?"
"Father," Shira put herself between Phineas and the king, "this is Phineas, a man from the surface. He is also my Comtala, and the one who engineered your rescue. That man is the one who killed Milos." Shira pointed towards the unconscious agent. The king's expression softened slightly.
"That is different, then. My ministers informed me that there were surface dwellers here."
The missing ministers, who had obviously played a part in his release, were huddled behind the king. The king held out his hand to Phineas, who took it and flinched at the grip.
"I believe gratitude is in order."
Phineas looked up at the towering man. "You're welcome," he managed to say through the pain. Several Atlantean guards came down the corridor, having liberated their weapons from the Kraken men, and picked up the agent, who had started to come around again. Phineas then saw his friends approach.
"Oh, there you are. We were wondering where you guys went off to," said Abigail to the ministers. "Glory hounds."
"Abigail, William, say hello to the king," said Phineas, rubbing his hand as his grip was released. As William approached, the king snarled and balled his fists.
"Father, it is all right. He is a friend," said Shira.
The king relaxed a bit, but still eyed William suspiciously.
"Come, let us go to the throne room, and you can tell me what is transpiring. Bring him,"
he added to the guards holding the agent. As they were leaving, the remaining guards picked up Milos's body and carried him off for a proper burial. Meanwhile, in the throne room, another contingent of guards was already pulling the dead Kraken man on top of the seal in the front of the throne. The king sat down, but not before examining the chunk taken out of the top of the throne. "I did that," said Phineas. "Sorry. It was a beautiful throne. Now, I wouldn't mind bringing you up to speed with what's going on, but, with all due respect, the city still needs to be cleared of the Kraken men."
"I wouldn't worry about that," replied the king. "They will be dead within the week anyway. We will dispose of them as we go."
"What do you mean, dead, father?" asked Shira.
"We have been noticing that their lifespans are extremely short. They have been gradually dying on their own since they took over. If you had waited another week, we would have retrieved you from your exile."
"That's impossible!" exclaimed the now fully conscious ISS agent. "They were created by the finest genetic scientists America has."
"Apparently they aren't as good as you thought," pronounced Phineas, "and I'm sure that the citizens of Atlantis will be eager for payback, now that the scales have tipped in their favor. Speaking of payback, what should we do with you?"
"He will be punished for his crimes according to our laws," responded the king.
"No argument from me," said Phineas. "If we took him back with us, he would probably be rewarded. Just out of curiosity, what will his punishment be?" The king raised his hand, and a few seconds later the seal in front of the throne swirled open, dropping the bodies down a shaft. Everyone stepped back, except for the guards in charge of the agent. They shoved him forward, and as he peered over the side, several tentacles snaked up and grabbed him. They pulled him screaming down to his death, and then the seal closed. Phineas arched an eyebrow at the swift form of justice. "So, is anyone else hungry, or is it just me? I could go for something."
"I'm famished,"
added Abigail.
Shira smiled. "I think we have earned a banquet, unless those things have already eaten everything."
After a feast fit for a conquering hero, Ashira approached Phineas.
"Your craft is ready to take you to the surface. Everything that you brought with you is aboard and waiting for you."
Phineas looked from Ashira to Abigail. "I can't go," Phineas said to Abigail.
"What? Why not?"
she replied, knowing what was coming. Everyone within earshot suddenly became interested in the conversation, including the king. "Abigail, you know how I feel about you. At least I hope you do. William, you've been a trusted friend for as long as I can remember, but as much as I care for you two, I'm a married man now, and my place is here, with my wife." The king sat up and was about to say something, but Ashira held a finger to him, much to his displeasure.
"Just how do you feel?" asked Abigail. "Let me hear it from you just once."
Phineas shifted uneasily.
Well?"
Phineas's shoulders sagged.
"I can't say it. Now that I'm married, it wouldn't be fair to Ashira to start off that way. I'm sorry."
Abigail glared at him for a moment, and then a smirk formed across her lips. Barely able to keep from laughing, she couldn't keep up the charade any longer.
"Well, I guess that I really should tell you that you're not married, then."
Phineas's jaw dropped, and he looked from Ashira to Abigail, and back again. Ashira smiled.
"We are not married. Comtala means champion. You were just accepting a position in my court."
William began laughing so hard at the look on Phineas's face that he fell over in his chair. The king, finally understanding the ruse against Phineas, began laughing as well, which caused the rest of the room to join in, much to Phineas's dismay.
"Now, maybe you'll start paying attention to what's going on outside your world,"
Abigail said through chuckles. Phineas quickly stood up from the table and wiped the crumbs from his shirt.
"All right, time to go. My, look at the time. Well, it was nice meeting you all. Have a wonderful life under the sea." "Boy, there's commitment for you," said Abigail.
"Do you no longer wish your reward?" asked the king, still smiling. Phineas stopped in his tracks and turned around. The Atlantean craft surfaced in the Thames and glided gently to a dock. The hatch opened, and Phineas stepped out, followed by William and Abigail. "I could really use a shower," Phineas commented.
"Yes, you could," Abigail sniffed. "So could you," she said, turning to William.
"You don't smell like a spring flower yourself, missy," commented William. "You realize that you could have asked for a fortune, Phineas. Did you see all of that gold down there? We could have been rich."
"I'm already rich," said Phineas. "How do you think I afford all those crullers that you eat?"
"Well, I'm not, and I'm sure that Abigail isn't."
"Actually, I am," mentioned Abigail. "I do own my own planes, run my own charters, and own part of an airfield."
"Well, I would like to be," stated William. "You'd be bored. Besides, working for me gives you purpose in life," Phineas joked. "Like that is all I want to do with my life. Besides, what are you going to do with those ray guns? We could have just kept the ones we had and gotten gold instead."
Phineas threw their bags onto the dock and shut the hatch. "I'll take them apart, see what makes them tick, sell copies, make a fortune, and retire," said Phineas. The craft started to submerge, and William lunged for the hatch, but missed.
"Well, you might want to rethink that plan."
"Why's that?"
"The retirement plans are still on board."
Phineas looked at the trail of bubbles leading down the river and sighed. "They might find their way back to me. I think Ashira liked me. Who knows? I just might retire down there." "Oh, please, she didn't want anything to do with you," chided Abigail. "I'm not so sure about that. I think that I would have made a pretty good Prince of Atlantis."
"You know that she was a fish, don't you?" asked William. "Tail, fin, gills. That's how they could swim without suits down there. They were mermaids."
"There's no such thing," said Phineas. "They were just acclimated to the environment. I never saw any tails." "I wonder if their children would hatch from eggs." "And have fins," teased Abigail.
Fins? choked William. Oh, shut up, said Phineas moodily. He looked around the area, but the fog was so thick that he couldn't see anything. Now how do we get to our hotel? I could barely see past my arm. I don't know, answered Abigail. I've never been to London before. Where is it supposed to be? Phineas pulled a piece of paper from his suit. Well, it sounds like a nice place. It's on the east end of the city. Some place called Whitechapel.
You're listening to Big World Network.